Welcome back, Royal Sussex Squad family. Grab your tea, sit back, and let's talk about the absolute royal mess happening over at Buckingham Palace. Because if there was ever proof that Harry and Meghan made the best decision of their lives when they walked away from that crumbling institution, this is it. The British press is in overdrive with their latest royal drama. Prince William was in despair when he read about Prince Andrew keeping Royal Lodge. Oh yes, despair. Apparently the future king is now heartbroken, confused and utterly lost because his uncle refuses to give up a mansion. You can't make this up. And yet this is what the royal establishment calls leadership. 2 Fridays ago, Prince Andrew, who should be living quietly and humbly after bringing shame to the monarchy, decided it was his time to step into the spotlight again. He released an arrogant statement declaring that he would relinquish his ducal title and his royal honours. But tucked inside that little PR stunt was the shocking revelation that he would still be living in Royal Lodge. That enormous mansion worth tens of millions of pounds. And guess what? This wasn't some act of generosity from the heavens. It was a deal, a shady arrangement struck between King Charles and his disgraced brother, signed off by courtiers who clearly have no sense of optics or morality. Because in the middle of a cost-of-living crisis, the royal family thinks it's appropriate for a man with a tainted past to live rent-free in a 30-room palace. Now here's where it gets even messier. After that announcement, things started falling apart within 72 hours. King Charles suddenly realised, or maybe someone finally told him, that this was a terrible look. And now the palace is scrambling to renegotiate Andrew's exit. But there's a catch. Prince Andrew isn't backing down. In fact, he's playing hardball. He's reportedly demanding not 1 but 2 homes. Frogmore Cottage for himself and Adelaide Cottage for his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. And that's when William decided to insert himself into the chaos. Sources say the prince was furious. His friends are running to reporters saying that William was resisting Andrew's demands, that he was angry at the king's weakness, that he's the one trying to bring order. But if you look closely at the reporting, it becomes clear that William didn't actually do anything. He just read a memo about Andrew's deal and threw a fit. That's right. The so-called strong future king only found out through palace notes that Andrew was being allowed to stay in Royal Lodge. He wasn't leading the charge. He wasn't making decisions. He was sitting somewhere, skimming through papers and sulking. This is what the press calls in despair. I call it a tantrum. And let's talk about the king for a minute. Charles has been trying to remove Andrew from Royal Lodge for over a year. Rumour has it he wants the property as a dower house for Camilla when he dies. It's all very morbid and petty, but it shows you what really drives these people: property, ego and control. Earlier this year, Charles was forced to admit defeat because Andrew refused to move. Imagine that. The King of England can't even evict his own brother. Weak doesn't even begin to describe it. And yet these are the same people who were quick to strip Harry and Meghan of Frogmore Cottage. The same people who sent eviction notices to the only couple who ever brought fresh energy and global admiration to the monarchy. When it came to Harry and Meghan, they acted immediately. No hesitation, no negotiations, just punishment. But when it's Andrew, suddenly there's room for discussion, deals and compromise. The hypocrisy is staggering. Charles's team, in their usual state of confusion, issued a statement just 10 days ago saying Andrew would not be leaving Royal Lodge. 10 days later, that same team is now leaking that they're trying to push him out. This level of incompetence would get any normal CEO fired, but in the royal world, it's business as usual. And poor William, the media tells us he's growing in power as his father deals with illness, that he's taking on more responsibility. But how can that be true when he's clearly out of the loop on major decisions? If William is supposedly the de facto regent, then why is he reading about Andrew's deal after it happens? It makes no sense. Either he's in charge and failing, or he's sidelined and fuming. Either way, it's chaos. And let's not forget, while all of this is happening, William has been conveniently on vacation again. That's right. The man the tabloids call the hardest-working royal somehow manages to disappear whenever the family implodes. But don't worry, they'll still find a way to blame Meghan for everything, even though she's 5,000 miles away, minding her business and thriving. Now, about those 2 homes Andrew supposedly wants. Reports say that Buckingham Palace itself may have floated that idea to him. Can you believe it? The same palace that leaked endless lies about Harry and Meghan's housing, security and financial independence is now offering 2 taxpayer-funded homes to Andrew and Fergie. It's almost comedic. And yet the British tabloids have nothing to say. Where's the outrage? Where are the screaming headlines about royal freeloaders and ungrateful family members? When Harry and Meghan lived in Frogmore, the press acted like the Sussexes were robbing the nation blind. But Andrew, the man who disgraced the monarchy on an international scale, gets silence. That's the British media for you. Selective outrage, fueled by racism, jealousy and control. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are over in California building real lives. Meghan's Archewell Foundation is making global impact. Harry continues to uplift veterans through Invictus. They're out there working while this so-called royal family can't even figure out who's living where. The contrast couldn't be clearer. This is what happens when you build your life on lies and entitlement. The whole structure crumbles. The monarchy is eating itself alive, and the courtiers are too busy leaking stories and stabbing each other in the back to notice. The institution is supposed to represent stability and grace, but every week brings new evidence of dysfunction and hypocrisy. And through it all, Harry and Meghan stand tall. You can see the difference in how they live, how they speak, how they move through the world. Their energy is calm, grounded and authentic. That's what real power looks like. Not palaces, not titles, but peace. The royal machine tried to destroy them. They used the press, the courtiers, and even family members to isolate and shame them. But all they did was expose their own corruption. Every time the palace messes up, it reminds the world that Harry and Meghan's decision to leave wasn't rebellion. It was survival. You see, when William is in despair, it's because he's watching everything his family built crumble. He's not in despair over Andrew's mansion. He's in despair because the monarchy's mask is slipping and the world no longer buys the fairy tale. The British people are struggling, yet these royals are playing house with taxpayer-funded estates. Harry and Meghan, on the other hand, represent what the monarchy pretends to be: compassion, dignity and purpose. They're doing the work that actually matters, from mental health advocacy to community empowerment. They're building a legacy without needing anyone's permission. So when the tabloids say William's in despair, I say good. Let him feel the weight of the system he helped uphold. Let him see what happens when you protect corruption and attack honesty. Because at the end of the day, it's not Harry and Meghan who look weak. It's not them who look confused or desperate. It's the palace. It's the monarchy. Even their PR strategies are falling apart. Every leak contradicts the last one. Every insider quote exposes more dysfunction. Buckingham Palace has lost control of its narrative because there's no truth left to tell. And while they drown in their own spin, Harry and Meghan just keep winning. With every project, every partnership, every moment of peace. This whole saga is a reminder that you can't build your happiness on someone else's suffering. The palace tried to do that to the Sussexes. They tried to destroy them to protect the firm's image. And now karma is collecting its receipts. William's despair, Charles's weakness, Andrew's arrogance. It's all part of a crumbling system that can't hide behind pageantry anymore. The world sees it for what it is. And in that truth, Harry and Meghan shine even brighter. They chose peace over palaces, love over lies, and freedom over fear. And look at them now, thriving while the ones who mocked them are consumed by scandal. That's not coincidence. That's poetic justice. Prince William was in despair when he read about Andrew keeping Royal Lodge 2 Fridays ago. Prince Andrew released his arrogant statement about how he decided to relinquish his ducal title and his royal honours. Folded within the big title announcement was a curious confirmation that Andrew's daughter's titles would be unchanged and untouched, and that Andrew would still reside in Royal Lodge. As in, this was a deal struck between Andrew and King Charles, and the courtiers clearly signed off on the deal where Andrew could continue to live in an enormous mansion for the rest of his days. That deal blew up over the course of the following 72 hours, and now Charles is clearly trying to negotiate Andrew's exit from Royal Lodge. The problem? Andrew's negotiating position is surprisingly strong, and Charles is famously a weak man and a ditherer who refuses to make the big calls in a timely manner. All of which means that we're now being told that Andrew is demanding 2 homes in exchange for Royal Lodge, Frogmore Cottage for himself and Adelaide Cottage for Sarah Ferguson. Well, Tom Sykes had some tea about what's happening behind the scenes, Andrew's demand for 2 homes. Prince William's friends told the royalist that William was resisting the Duke's demands, but King Charles is said to be considering the option, which would be greeted by public outrage. Prince Andrew's camp have, however, leaked suggestions that giving Andrew 2 houses, one for him and one for Sarah Ferguson, was the King's idea. It's a clear sign, were any needed, of the chaos at the heart of King Charles' court, where discipline has completely broken down as courtiers, family members and aides have taken advantage of the weak and ailing king's lack of control to push their own agendas. Does Charles want Royal Lodge for Camilla? King Charles has been trying to push Andrew out of the gigantic Royal Lodge for over a year, with speculation that he wants the property as a dower house for his wife Camilla after his death. The precedent is there as it was formerly the dower house of the late Queen Mother after the death of her husband, King George VI. Charles has been humiliated by his abject failure to eject Andrew from the property, and earlier this year accepted that he had lost the battle. Palace mismanagement. Incredibly, in a sign of the shambolic mismanagement at the heart of the King's operation, just 10 days ago, when Andrew renounced the use of his title, the King's office issued guidance saying Andrew would not be leaving the grand property. Charles's team's spectacular mismanagement of the entire Andrew affair has incurred the wrath of Prince William, who, in a bold demonstration of his growing power as his father lives with incurable cancer, coordinated the moves to get Andrew to renounce his title, something Charles's team had long said was impossible, impractical and pointless. William was in despair with his father's deal with Andrew, in which Andrew kept RL. One source today told the royalists that William was left in despair when he laid his eyes on the media briefing notes issued by the palace a week ago last Friday, which said Andrew would be staying on at Royal Lodge. William doesn't care about the neighbouring estates issue. Some reports have said the proximity between Royal Lodge and Forest Lodge is a concern for William, but in fact the properties are a few miles apart, and my sources say William couldn't care less about that issue. Was the two homes scheme something suggested by the palace? A source described as being close to Ferguson told the London Times that neither she nor her ex-husband had demanded two properties, but said the arrangement was one of the options suggested by Buckingham Palace in the past. From the Royalist Substack, just FYI to anyone, and I won't say who, it's completely contradictory to argue that William is the one masterminding Andrew's punishments, and William is merely reading memos from the palace and quietly burning with rage. If William is indeed in charge and acting as the de facto regent, then surely he wouldn't have found out about the Royal Lodge deal via a memo. William claimed to be part of the negotiations, remember? It's far more likely that William is simply being copied on the generalities of the negotiations between Charles and Andrew. And William skims those memos while he's on vacation yet again. It's far more likely that William and his courtiers can't keep their stories straight about what ruthless William is doing and saying anymore, because he's simply not doing anything at all. Again, he's been on vacation for the past 10 days. As for Sykes' tea about giving Andrew and Fergie two homes was Charles's idea in the first place, I actually sort of believe that. I believe that Charles has offered Andrew pretty much anything to stop this PR bleed. Not only that, I think Buckingham Palace released the information about Andrew is demanding two homes as a trial balloon to see how the public and press would react. So, Royal Sussex Squad family, if you ever needed a reminder that walking away from toxic environments is the ultimate power move, this is it. Harry and Meghan did what so many people are afraid to do. They chose themselves. They chose their children. And for that, they'll always have our respect. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let's keep building this community of truth-tellers, positivity and love for the Sussexes. And if you'd like to support the channel and help us keep exposing the hypocrisy, hit that super thanks button or share this video far and wide. Because while the palace keeps spinning, we'll keep speaking truth. While they hide behind silence, we'll keep shining the light. Harry and Meghan's story isn't one of exile, it's one of triumph. And we, the Royal Sussex Squad, are here to tell it, loud and proud. Until next time, stay blessed, stay bold, and keep your crowns polished.